Hello and welcome to Group 1's presentation on the 6 rights of purchasing and its impact on the Principality Stadium and its supply chain. The Principality Stadium has produced a significant economic boost of 2.75 billion since opening in 1999, with 18 million visits generated from each year since, showing the stadium's importance and value to Cardiff's economy. In this presentation, we will first be looking at our findings, providing a summary of the information and research gathered by our team. We will then look into detail about each right of purchasing, its impacts on the Principality and the supply chain, and the consequential impact it has on Cardiff's economy.
To summarise our findings of the 6 R's, with the first one being right item, that's basically ensuring that the product meets the specification. We will now look at the remaining 5 R's. The right quality. This is when the product meets the service or the standards required. Analysing what is being purchased, measures supplier performance, and investigating how the reduction in cost may impact the quality. So the cheaper, the less quality, more expensive, the better quality. The right place. This is the cost of acquisition, and there's a whole life cost of the product. How long can it last? The right quantity. This is achieved through accurate demand focused, whether it's critical, routine, or non-critical. And why, what, when, and where are the parts going? The right time. This is closely linked to the previous 3 and is prioritised around the Toyota just-in-time method. The right source. This is the supplier. This is where the optimal receipt and delivery point. And this ensures the suppliers scrutinise their accepted methods of the part themselves. The rest of the group will now elaborate from this point. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amber Heard and I will be talking to you today on the right item. Right item, commonly highlighted as specification, comes first within the purchasing cycle, as seen in the image below. So what do we mean by specification? As written by Bailey, a specification can be simply defined as a statement of the requirements to be satisfied in the supply of product or service. So what is the importance? Specification is seen as the foundation for the contract, a basis where all requirements are detailed. This is fundamental to be correct and to be continued throughout the process. Specification decides who in the supply market has the capability to tender for the work. We all understand when a specification is right, the outcomes are positive. Products are fit for purpose, suppliers are confident in the end product, and the end user's needs are met. However, what if they don't go right? We could have an unwanted item, loss of earnings, or worse, reputation damage. So how would we go about writing one? Writing the specification, it is important to consult and research first, reflect the needs of the customers, not be biased, and give clear instruction. When writing the specification, a cross-functional team is best. A cross-functional team is where different members that have different expertise work together towards a common goal. For example, marketing, sales, engineering. As we're looking at the food and drink sector within the Principality Stadium, an example of a few members we would call upon could be head of hospitality, a buyer for procurement, and head of catering. Looking into the beverage side, I can show how the team would start from a viewpoint and how it would be broken down. In this case, beverage. If we look at beverages, we could be alcoholic, non-alcoholic. Would it be wine, cider, beer, or spirit? For this instance, wine, and then red, white, rosé, and continue to get more and more specific. But then all the other rights are contained within, such as quality, quantity, and time. However, I will not talk about these in detail as my other colleagues will cover these as the presentation continues. I will now pass you to Declan, who will be talking to you about the right quality. Thank you.
Now we'll move on to right quality. But first of all, what is quality? It is when a product or item satisfies the consumer and is satisfactory. With this, the consumer will purchase the product or service if it meets their specific needs/requirements. Maintaining quality means vigorously pursuing excellence on a continued basis. Now we will look at quality within the purchasing process. Firstly, the product must meet its physical description. What exactly is the product? Secondly, are the weights or dimensions involved correct? Are the chemicals or ingredients involved within the making product correct? The product needs to meet its performance or general specification, and the supplier that the product is being purchased from must meet the required ISO standards. ISO 9001, this is the quality management standards. ISO 22000, this is the food standards, and the Food Standards Agency, this is the standard the UK government abide to. Also, the brand name of the product might need to be well known. In the case of food, it could be Peter's Pies. The image on the right is called the quality cycle. It consists of 4 steps: plan, do, check, and act. This cycle is continuous feedback loop for any industry. To be able to adapt to quality management and supply chain procurement, the following steps may be taken. A PPAP must be in place, regular inspection process needs to be put in place, and a SCAR needs to be implemented. A SCAR is a supplier correct action request. The supplier must have the correct certification requirements to be able to supply the product, i.e. ISO standards. Supplier ratings need to be gathered. The SCM must take a wide approach to its enterprise, and the suppliers need to be involved at all times for orders to any changes or specifications, etc. To improve quality control within the food manufacturing industry, it is critical to stick to the designated plan. Ensure traceability is in place because this is critical. Different ingredients used, date made, sell by date, etc. As you can see from the post on the right, it displays the steps involved. Automating any processes to reduce production time and reduce human error, and having an aggressive approach with failures of the product in place. But you must emphasize the importance of quality. You get what you pay for, the more expensive, the better the quality.
Hello, good afternoon. I am Lois Penny, and I will be discussing the right price in the supply chain. When principalities decide on the right price, right cost, these decisions will impact the business financially. The right price is finalising all of the above at a price which is fair, competitive, and will satisfy customers. Price not only relates to the amount paid for a product or materials in the procurement cycle, but price can also involve operation, inventory, cost holding, moving stock, and transportation costs, which will all need to be factored into the RFQ, request for quotation. RFQ and invite for tender is a factor included in the procurement cycle which you will see presented. Invite for tender is a short list of bidders to make a formal and detailed offer to supply the goods or services. Businesses will look at different elements when deciding the price. These are strategy, cost, market, and the value. When considering these, they will also choose whether to make or buy. This is an act in choosing manufacturing in-house for reduction in the supply chain or procuring from an external supplier. The Principality Stadium is operating to make a profit, and one of their aims and objectives is to provide an enhanced and integrated supply chain partnership framework to achieve environmental improvements and cost savings. There are many price analysis and models which are effective to drive down business costs, one being the TCO model. The TCO stands for Total Cost of Ownership, and this serves as a key mean by which to analysis and evaluate indirect costs. This helps businesses analyse the difference between short-term meaning purchase price and long-term meaning total cost for a product or a service. It helps to make an informed purchasing decision when selecting the right supplier from multiple alternatives. Thank you for listening. Thank you, and I will now be passing on to Mark, who will be discussing the right quantity within the 6 rights of the procurement cycle.
Thank you very much. I'm Mark, and the next right of purchasing is the right quantity. This relates to is the correct amount of stock being ordered for the Principality Stadium in order to achieve optimal inventory levels. The need to manage inventory is absolutely crucial for organisations, such as the Stadium, due to the large volume of stock. Inventory can be the largest block of money for some organisations. Deciding on the quantity of stock which is to be ordered can be referred to as a balancing act between the costs associated with ordering stock and the costs associated with holding the stock. If, as the Stadium, you were looking to hold small quantities of beverages for a match day or an event, and only purchasing when required, this could involve multiple orders in a short space of time, which is inconvenient and can be costly, particularly if orders are arriving on match day with a given amount of traffic and road closures in place. Conversely, it's important to consider the costs of ordering large quantities of stock. Although it may seem more cost effective, the cost of holding the stock safely and securely can be one way in which the Principality Stadium and consequently Cardiff Council could attempt to see economic growth is to identify the economic order quantity. The diagram shown illustrates the economic order quantity EOQ. The diagram suggests that the more as an organisation you were to order, the higher the holding costs are. However, the more you order, the lower the acquisition or ordering costs are. Therefore, EOQ is where the holding costs and the acquisition costs interact with each other, which could be the optimum number to order and hold. However, there are limitations to this method, which can make it problematic to successfully identifying this point for the stadium, such as it's based on the assumption that the demand is uniform. Therefore, at each event, the stadium held the same demand for food and beverages, and the order costs are independent of the size of the order, and there is no limitation either on the size of the order. Despite these limitations, it would be in the great interest as a stadium to identify the economic order quantity to ensure the quantity of stock is at the best possible option.
The right of time within the purchasing cycle illustrates the measure of time calculated from the receipt of purchase requisition to the purchase order supplier up to the time of arrival. Time has a close relationship with quantity, while smaller quantities of purchasing may result in more frequent orders. A business may gain competitive advantages by interpreting and achieving the goals set by the market faster, better, and in a more sustainable fashion than its competition, while poor time management can risk lowering customers' expectations and loyalty to a company. There are different in-time strategies used in purchasing, such as just-in-time and just-in-case strategies, commonly abbreviated to JIT and JIC. These different strategies are generally implemented within the food and beverage retail industry to increase efficiency of stock availability and production. Just-in-time looks to optimize lean methods by reducing waste in manufacturing, while just-in-case priorities the minimizing of goods running low on stock. Just-in-case uses more methods of prediction, while just-in-time uses precision and bases its production on consumption figures. Efficiency and reduced waste can be utilized especially when using the just-in-time strategy. Alternatively, this strategy is heavily dependent on its suppliers to deliver on time, with little buffer as a safety net. The pandemic in particular would have had serious impacts on companies using this strategy, with its impact in importation and transport, while businesses using the just-in-case strategy would have benefited from having an increased buffer for emergency disruptions in production. Stock availability in a store is seen to be of great importance, with research showing stockouts can cast doubt on the perception and the overall image of a store. The food and beverage industry in Wales was valued at £7.4 billion in 2020, while also making up much of Cardiff's GDP. Stock availability's value to the development of the food and beverage industry, along with its impacts on Cardiff's economy, show the overall importance of time in the purchasing cycle.
Hello, I'm Daniel Williams and I'll be talking to you about right source. The make or part buy of a simple purchasing cycle motivates the idea of right place or right source. According to the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply, sourcing seeks to find, evaluate and engage suppliers to achieve cost saving and best value for goods and services, which can be done through a tender process. Factors such as reliability, quantity, flexibility and capacity are considered in the tendering process along price. A sourcing strategy is a process, not an isolated decision. It continuously balances internal and external activities, services and know-how, aligns business strategy, business processes and product requirements, balances the results that must be achieved and the future options available. Linson and Farrington, motivated by A.T. Kearney, developed the following 7-step process. Strategic sourcing is a complicated process involved in a number of interrelated tasks. The following: planning, facets of strategic sourcing, research, conclusions from phase 3, supplier selection, implementation, and report and benchmark. The 10 C's of supplier evaluation can help identify your organisation's needs, understand how suppliers can meet them, and choose the right supplier to you. First, competency. Look how competent the supplier is. Can they make a thorough assessment of their capabilities and measure them against your needs? Secondly, capacity. Does the supplier have enough capacity to handle your company's requirements? If so, how quickly can they respond to your needs and to market and supply fluctuations? Third, commitment. The supplier needs to provide evidence that they are highly committed to quality standards. Do they have any incentives? Are they committed to working to you? 4. Control. How much control does the supplier have over their policies, processes, procedures and supply chain? Can they consistently and reliably deliver resources that are required, or are the resources controlled by another organisation? 5. Cash. The supplier should be in good financial health. 6. Cost. The actual cost of the product or service that the supplier provides. 7. Consistency. How will the supplier ensure that they consistently provide high quality goods or services? Do they have a strong track record, or are they industry newcomers with an innovative approach? 8. Culture. The best business relationships are based on closely matched working values. This is why looking at the supplier's business culture is important. For example, if your organisation's most important value is quality and your main supplier cares about meeting deadlines, this could potentially be a mismatch, leading to an unacceptable relationship. 9. Are they ethical, sustainable and clean? The supplier's commitment to sustainability and their adherence to environmental laws and best practices. What are they doing to reduce their environmental footprint? Do they have any evidence of green accolades or credentials? Finally, how do they treat their people? Do they have a reputation for corporate social responsibility and for doing business ethically? Finally, communication. How does the supplier stay in touch? Will their proposed communication approaches align with your preferred methods? And who will be the firm's contact? It is also important to find out how the supplier will handle communications in the event of a crisis. Will they notify you if there's a supply disruption? How will communication take place? And finally, if a problem does occur, will you be able to reach senior people? In this process, it is encouraged to document all evidence collated as future reference. Finally, getting the right suppliers is motivated by a term co-makership. It is based on the principle that buyers and suppliers can gain more benefits by cooperating, by pursuing self-interest at any cost, therefore promoting supply with a long-term relationship. Profitability and market share are objectives that buyers and suppliers have in common. This recommends co-makership as a way to more secure environment of cooperation and communication between suppliers and their companies.